We're gonna go ahead and start the meeting. So if everyone can quiet down, please. We can go on the record, Mr. Porter.
If you want.
All right, hello everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm kind of a loudmouth, so it usually works. No? Okay, well, we're gonna have a rough evening then because we have speakers, but those speakers are for recording. Can you turn off your audio? Okay. So my name is Jennifer Grace. I'm a public utility law judge with the Maryland Public Service Commission. Okay, from that. You think it's that?
Say that again, please.
Yeah. Are you getting feedback now?
I think so. Can you repeat that?
Can you just turn off the speaker on the whole computer? Oh. Okay, we're gonna just text stuff. Sound is now Mr. Porter.
Sounds good now.
Okay, good. Okay, let's try this again. Thanks for bearing with us. My name is Jennifer Grace. I'm a public utility law judge at the Maryland Public Service Commission. The reason why we're here is because a company called Chaberton Solar Ramiere LLC filed an application with the Maryland Public Service Commission for a CPCN, their Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, to construct a 3.0 megawatt solar photovoltaic generating facility here in Montgomery County. So I'm here. I'm the one who's hearing from you today. I'm the one who's deciding and issuing the proposed order. Next to me, this fine gentleman is the VIP. He's the core reporter. He's the one who turns the words that people speak tonight into words that can be considered as a part of the case. So that's why making sure his sound is good, because he's a VIP. Over here and over here, these are folks from the company that's filed the application. And there are some other folks sitting around that are representatives for the parties to the case. There are a bunch of parties in this case, and they're all litigating this matter, right? And so I've asked attorneys or representatives from those parties to be here tonight to give you some information. So the way these hearings work is the first half of the meeting, or the first part of the meeting, is the parties give a brief presentation to you all to tell you a little bit about what's going on. And then the second part of this meeting is to hear from you. We want to go to the location where a proposed project is. We want to hear from the public, to hear what you think about the project, good or bad, and how this is affecting you. So listen, half of you are here to learn something tonight and half of you are here to say something tonight. The only way we're going to get this done is if everyone remains quiet. So for that reason, there can be no hooting and hollering. There can be no stomping, clapping, booing, anything like that. If that happens, I have to stop the meeting and then I don't get to hear from anyone. So I'm going to ask that you be respectful of the others, whether their opinion is the same as yours or not. If you feel like this kind of big room with lots of people is intimidating, don't worry. I'm going to show you how you can file a written public comment because, you know, I'm an introvert too. So you might want to file a written public comment, and about a dozen folks have done that in this very case already. So I'm going to, after I get some presentations from the parties, I'm going to give some more information about the case, and I'll try to show you where on the website you can do that if you don't want to speak tonight. So there are sign-up sheets in the back. You don't have to sign up. If you want to speak, I would suggest you sign up. There's a place where you can say, I'm here, but I don't want to speak. I'm here, I want to speak. I'll go through the names and call names. If you change your mind and decide you don't want to speak, don't say anything. I'll just move on to the next person, no problem. There's also over there on that table, something like this. This is an information sheet that was created by PPRP, which is one of the parties to this case. They'll introduce themselves a little later when I call on them. And this gives a lot of more detailed information about the case, and those should be available on the sign-in table. Okay, so Chaberton filed on April 18th, 2014. Chaberton Solar Ramiere LLC filed an application for a CPCN, and the proposed construction is on approximately 11 acres of a 118-acre property located at 17600 Whites Ferry Road in Poolsville, near the intersection of Whites Ferry Road and Sugarland Road. We've had some proceedings in this case, some things have happened in this case, and all of that information is available on the Public Service Commission website, and I'll show you where that is a little bit later. The next thing that's happening is there's a round of reply testimony that's due from some of the parties, and that's on May 15th. So the way the Public Service Commission works is, first we hear from the parties with hundreds of pages of pre-filed written testimony. And there's several rounds of that so they can respond to each other. And then we hear from the public, and then at the end, there's a hearing. And the hearing takes place at the Maryland Public Service Commission in Baltimore, in the city of Baltimore. So the next thing that's happened is going to be a round of paper testimony. There's going to be a third public comment hearing that's going to be virtual. You can sign up to provide public comment on the Maryland Public Service Commission website. There'll be another notice about that. And then we're scheduled right now for an evidentiary hearing to be held in Baltimore on June 3rd, but that could change. So those are the things that are happening next. All right, so I'm going to move on to the parties. I'm going to ask first that the applicant's attorney introduce himself and his client, and then I'm going to ask that he give a brief presentation using the screen as to what this project is about. So, Mr. Flavin. Oh, I should say, so when I have the attorneys talk to you, I'm going to have them face you, and I'm going to have them say their first and last name and spell their last name for the court reporter, the VIP. When you give comment to me, I'm going to ask that you turn this way. There's a camera over there that's putting this on YouTube for folks who couldn't be here tonight. And also, Mr. VIP's speakers are all up here. So I won't be able to consider your testimony unless you turn and face this way. Mr. Flavin.
Good evening. My name is Andy Flavin. That's Andyflavin. And I am counsel for the applicant, Chaberton Solar Ramiere LLC. And with me tonight, I have Katie Griffin and Amy Byrne, who both work for Chaberton. And they have some PowerPoint slides that they're going to show you, very brief presentation to describe the project. And with that, I will turn it over to them.
Or not, just speak loudly.
Okay, I have no problem with that. Good evening, and thank you guys all for coming tonight. As Mr. Flavin already introduced me, I am Katie Griffin. For the record, Catherine, Katherne, Griffin, Griffin. And he has also introduced Amy as well. So I'm the project manager for this project, and any questions afterwards that you guys have about the details of projects, I'm happy to dive deep into the details with you guys. With that being said, there is the information sheet that went out. There are a couple things that since this information sheet was published that have changed. The first one being agrivoltaics has been introduced to the record as an official commitment from Chaberton, as something we are going to do on this project. As well as the access road does not extend all the way to the south side of the parcel. It only now comes to just this, not break cords here, but it only comes down to this north side. From a fire and rescue perspective, it has to be close to the equipment pads, and just based on where we've shifted the equipment pads to minimize noise for the southern neighbor, that allowed us to also change the access road for Montgomery County Fire and Rescue requirements. So I did want to just highlight those details and the different changes that are slightly different than what you guys see on the sheet before you today. But overall, this is a 3 megawatt project. It's located just a few miles from here on Whitesbury Road. There's approximately 10 acres of panels, and the limit of disturbance is approximately 11 acres on the 118 acre parcel. It's located in Pepco's service territory, and based on its size, it's subject to the Maryland Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity process, which is why we're all here tonight. Since our first public information hearing, many things have happened. The main one being that Project Ramiere has also been submitted into Montgomery County's mandatory referral process. It is still under review through the mandatory referral process, and we'll be going through a planning board hearing next week. So during this process, Montgomery County really challenged us to explore agrivoltaics as an opportunity for these projects, and we have fully dove into that commitment and will be pursuing agrivoltaics as part of this project. So when we look at community solar projects, there's 4 main considerations that we look at to decide what qualifies as a good site. The first one, it has to be close to infrastructure. The 3-phase circuits that you guys see, not very frequent throughout the agricultural reserve and really not frequent through a lot of Montgomery County. It has to be close to those for us to be able to connect to the grid. So this project is relatively close to the infrastructure, has an approved interconnection agreement with Pepco, and pretty minimal upgrades. In addition to that, there has to be no to negligible environmental impact or environmental impact that we can mitigate one way or the other. We are proud to say that this site has very minimal environmental impact, and there is one minor site plan revision that is undergoing review with the county right now to avoid 2 specimen tree critical root areas to ensure that this environmental impact is very negligible. In addition to that, forest conservation and stormwater are both being reviewed by the county, and we expect to know shortly, but all comments from the county have been addressed. And then in addition to that, we look for gentle slopes, essentially just based on the equipment in order to minimize grading and disruption to the topsoil. We look for very gentle slopes, which this property has less than 10% slopes. And then the last thing we look for is essentially natural screening or the ability to add additional screening to make it non-visible from the road. So we did have this project set back as far as we could from the road, as well paired with the slopes from the site and additional screening we intend to add. It should be at time of maturity for the plantings, not visible from the road. And from an economic standpoint, there are various positive impacts to the community based on this site. Community solar and this project are directly in line with state and county goals for renewable energy. One of the core tenets for community solar is to provide equitable opportunities for all to participate in renewable solar, regardless of home ownership or ability to finance a solar array. The Maryland Office of People's Counsel recently released a presentation showing Pepco's distribution rates have increased on average every single year, 6% since 2010. This solar facility has the opportunity to offset that for 400 households for the life of the project. For low to moderate income customers, it will offset their bill by 25%. and for standard customers, 10%. Maryland is currently an importer of energy. Large-scale ground-mount solar is the least expensive and least subsidized form of energy. As Maryland continues to produce more solar in the state, instead of importing energy, it can help hedge against those rising costs of electricity that we're all subject to. Lastly, one of the main concerns that we've gotten through public comments about the project has been about the loss of agricultural land. Paired with Montgomery County's push, that is why we've made a commitment to agrivoltaics. And since our last public information hearing, we have firmly committed to incorporating agrivoltaics into our design. We have partnered with a company called Oakavate. I think many of you guys at another public information hearing got to hear from Oakavate directly. But essentially what they do is they use Stanford-backed research to analyze all the way down to the soil quality, the radiation, rainfall, in order to give us what solutions are even possible on the site when it comes to agrivoltaics. In addition to that report, we also have a draft request for proposals to select our agricultural partner for this project. Given the life expectancy of the project and innovations that may occur in agrivoltaics, we have developed a selection process for picking the correct partner at any point in the project that allows for the flexibility of a farmer to come lease the land for a portion of the project, but not necessarily committing them to a 30-year project. And it gives us the ability to continue with a new farmer throughout the life cycle of the project. We are in active contact with the Maryland Department of Agriculture and the Montgomery Office of Agriculture, and we've received feedback from the University of Maryland as well as local farmers. We do intend to offer market rate for services provided as an agrivoltaic solution. With that being said, we look forward to hearing your guys' comments tonight, and both Amy and myself will be around afterwards for any questions or comments you guys have for us.
PIW program within the Department of Natural Resources. I am the project manager for the state's review of the Ramiere Community Solar Generating Station that is being previewed tonight. This is what is called a community solar project, and if permitted, will contribute to the state law requiring that by 2030, 50% of the project. I want to point out that I have provided a copies of case summary sheets that contains useful information on the project and the specific issues that PPRP reviews and provides an independent assessment on. PPRP has not provided the recommendation of the secretaries of DNR and MDE and will not do so until May 15th. And a third public hearing will be held virtually on May 19th. PPRP's in-progress review of these cases looks at a number of issues that are factored into the secretarial recommendation to either approve or deny the project's application for a CPCN. Among these issues that we reviews include biological. We looked at the biological impacts of the site selected for the project and the impact that facility may have on natural resources, including trees, waterways, streams, and wildlife. Noise. PPRP examines the noise impacts of electrical equipment on any adjacent residences. Visual impacts. These include the review of landscape buffers and security fencing. Cultural resources. PPRP works with the Maryland Historical Trust within the Department of Planning to ensure that the projects will not adversely impact historical properties within the project's footprint. Public safety and transportation. This review includes roads, highway access, the impact of any glare on nearby airports and residences. Economic and fiscal. PPRP's reviews the proposed economic benefits of the project to the area and the host county, including tax revenue and jobs created for construction of the project. Greenhouse gas. PPRP examines how the project will reduce greenhouse gas emission over the life of the project. There are other issues that PPRP examines on a case-specific basis, and once PPRP's review is complete, we file the recommendation of the secretaries of DNR and the FDE within the record, along with the supporting documents, and these are publicly available and can be reviewed on the PSC website. As noted earlier, PPRP will file the state recommendation on May 15th, and the public will have another opportunity to provide input at the hearing on May 19th. Thank you.
Montgomery County, Maryland.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Brennan, Lisaberennan. I'm Assistant County Attorney for Montgomery County, Maryland. The proposed project is located in Montgomery County, and the county intervened and is a party to this proceeding. I represent the county in this case. The county plans on filing comments of the county executive and county council will serve as the recommendation of the governing body on May 15th, and they will be available on, as we've been discussing, on the PSC's webpage for that case.
Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission.
My name is Matthew Mills, MILLS. I'm counsel to the Montgomery County Planning Board, which is part of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Park and Planning is the regional planning authority, so we intervened in the case. Is 2425 Reedy Drive on the second floor in Wheaton. I would encourage you all to show up and testify in front of the planning board. The board does like public input. You need to sign up at montgomeryplanningboard.org. That's all one word, montgomeryplanningboard.org, at least 2 days in advance. Thank you.
Montgomery Countryside Alliance, Montgomery County Farm Bureau, and Montgomery Agricultural Producers. And if you'd like.
Good evening. My name is William Sheehan. Those of you who live here and those of you who don't but know of the reserve know that it's a special place, not just in Maryland. It's got a reputation across the country as a place where the community has actually discovered, implemented, and lived with a viable accommodation of urban and suburban and agricultural interests. It comprises about 90,000 acres in Upper Montgomery County. And over the years, efforts to invade the land by commercial interests have come with a continuous onslaught. We want to have a shooting range. We want to have overnight camping. This goes on and on and on, and this is just the latest in the series of people with commercial interests trying to destroy the agricultural reserve. That will happen in bits and pieces and bits and pieces and bits and pieces until finally there'll be nothing left protecting. We're where the country at large, where the United States urban planners, suburban planners have seen the agricultural reserve as a beacon of sane planning, commercial developers see dollar signs. Chaberton will tell you that they're interested in the community. Their website says they're interested in the community. To try to erect their solar projects. They wouldn't have come in here and said, we don't care about your zoning. We don't care how much time the community put into the master plan, how much time the community and all the various elements in the community sat at the table negotiating over these master plans and the zoning laws. We don't care. We want your best farmland, and we're going to ask the Public Service Commission to override you. They're not here to help. They're a large corporation. They've got over 100 projects throughout the country and perhaps overseas. And its goal is to make money, even if
We're having Wi-Fi issues.
even if it takes away from us our prime farmland. Our zoning is not a significant barrier to the development of solar. Montgomery County is second in the state to the production of electricity through solar. So the notion that somehow we're being selfish with our zoning is just not accurate. Let me say two other things about the application. You heard tonight about the promise of agrivoltaics. That means somehow the conjoining of solar arrays with a continuation of some kind of agricultural production, and how deeply committed they are to it. They filed this application in 2014, 11 years ago. They have now put out a request for proposals for advisors on agrivoltaics. That's not a commitment to agrivoltaics. That's running scared at the last minute, thinking they've forgotten something and they're going to try to do something about it. This case will have been decided before they have decided on their request for proposals. First of all. Second of all, when they've had their application in since 2014 and 11 years later, they have put out a request for proposals. They also said they wanted to mitigate the environmental impact of their product. Well, there's two ways to do that. One is put it on rooftops, put it in parking lots, put it all over the county, all over the state, where the panels work every bit as well as they're going to work on our prime farmland. Second, there are now in the market effective vertical solar panels. And you put them up on the sides of fields. You don't take over the field with a horizontal array. You put them up on the sides. They get all the sun in the morning and all the sun in the afternoon. Why aren't they doing that? That would mitigate what they're doing. That would mitigate the harm to our farmland. 60% of farmland in Montgomery County in the agricultural reserve, 60% of the farmland is rented by farmers. It's not owned, the land is not being farmed by the people who own it. 60% is rented. The farmers get paid, the owners get paid by the farmers. Chaberton can pay the owners more. That means that our farmland is going to disappear. It's bad for farmers. It's bad for our communities. It's bad for wildlife. Raptors, owls, eagles, hawks, kestrels. They can no longer hunt on land that's covered with solar panels. It's bad for farmers. It's bad for our communities. It's bad for wildlife. It's good for Chaberton's balance sheet. That's the choice. Thank you for listening.
You have to spell your name out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sheehan, Sheehan. Thank you.
Hey, guys. If there's clapping again, the meeting's gonna get shut down and we will hear from nobody. We're not gonna have meetings where one side or another is, I guess, feels like they can't be allowed to speak at a meeting. We just don't have a meeting today. We satisfied the requirements. The requirement is that we have one public hearing. We're having 3 in this case. Public Service Commission technical staff.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harrison Scher, spelled Scherr. Thank you for coming out tonight. I represent the Public Service Commission's technical staff, council. My clients in this case are engineers, and our role is to evaluate the project for its impact on the stability and reliability to the electric distribution grid. Staff is a participant by statute in all commission proceedings, and we will be filing our testimony on May 15th, and I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Can you put up the Maryland Public Service Commission website, please? Go on the Maryland Public Service Commission website, psc.state.md.us. There is a green box on the left side that says case/mail log form. This case is 9733. You can go and you can click on that, you can put in case number 9733, and all of the documents that have been filed in this case are available there. It's thousands of pages. If you don't want to do that, you can find out more information. The original application, only not all the recent stuff, but the original application is available at Poolsville Town Hall, 19721. I don't know if it's pronounced Bell Street or Beale Street. Bell Street. B-E-A-L-L Street. Poolsville, Maryland, 20837. Also, written comment is available to be filed. And that you can do that on the Maryland Public Service Commission website. It's in the middle of it. I'm going to try to show you where it was because there's a lot of information on the website. But it says make public comment. You just click on that. You can also read public comments that have already been filed in this case and other cases by putting search public comment. But for all of those things, you need to know that this case is 9733. And if you don't reference 9733, then it's possible your comment could be lost. Oh, thanks. This is where you put in 9733 and all of the information in the case. Thank you. All of the information in the case will come up. And if you scroll down, see how much information there is? Lots of information. Can you go back? One more. This is where you click make a public comment to file a written public comment. Once you do, you'll have to sign up. It's just a one-time sign up. It's really easy, but you have to put in 9733. And below that, search public comments. That's where you can see what other people have said in this case. So the information is out there if you want it. May have to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but it's there. All right, you've heard from the parties to the case. Those are all of the parties that are litigating this case. So now it's time to turn to public comment from you. Mikey Stokes. I'm gonna apologize in advance, one blanket apology. If I pronounce your name wrong, just correct me. I'll get it right the second time. Mr. Stokes, you can come up here. And if you'll just face this direction so this extra speaker can get you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mikey Stotts. I am the owner of Bluffing Goat Farm. It is a 204-acre dairy goat farm in the Ag Reserve, just a few miles from here. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am not here to speak for or against this specific project. I am here as a fellow member of the agricultural community and someone who has chosen to invest their time, money, and future in farming here in the Ag Reserve. I am also here as someone who's been paying Since that legislation was passed, we have not seen a single successful project move forward under its terms. That's not because people haven't tried, it's because the process and the rules as they stand simply don't work. We've effectively built a door and then locked it from the inside. I understand the concerns about scale, and I understand the fears around precedent and slippery slopes. But I worry that by shutting the door to any solar project, even the good ones, we may end up with no voice at all in how this transition plays out. And make no mistake, the transition is happening. The only question is whether we get to shape it or whether it happens to us. It's no secret that the state of Maryland has taken an increasingly heavy-handed approach when it comes to renewable energy. And it's largely because we haven't kept pace with the goals that have been set. We can choose to respond by throwing up our hands and saying that the state isn't listening to us and that we're being pushed into something we don't want. But as I look around this room today, I don't see a group that's big on groveling. If there's anyone capable of rolling with the punches and making lemonade out of lemons, in some cases literally, it's the folks in this room. We have the chance to beat the state at its own game by showing that renewable energy and agriculture don't have to be at odds. That in the right hands, they can work together and sustain both our land and our livelihoods. I don't believe most farmers are truly against solar. What folks are pushing back against aren't solar panels themselves. It's the projects that seem disconnected from agriculture, that arrive without enough input from the community, and that feel more like outside interests making use of our land rather than true partnerships that respect what we do. If we're going to have solar in the reserve, and I believe we will, then we should be fighting for projects that keep farmers on their land, maintaining grazing, preserving soil health, and providing a real and ongoing benefit to the agricultural community, not just the developer. My real fear is that if we don't take an active role in shaping what solar looks like here, things will move quickly, and the only beneficiaries will be wealthy landowners with no ties to agriculture, or hedge funds and private equity firms treating our farmland as just another asset and cashing checks from a distance while the fabric of our community erodes. That's the conversation I hope we can start having, not just tonight, but as a county. I'm not here tonight to pitch anything, but it's no secret that I am someone who is interested in agrivoltaics. I believe there is a way to marry renewable energy with working farmland, and not just in theory. But if we continue to treat every solar project as an existential threat, we may lose the chance to define what the right vision of this even looks like. I appreciate all of you who've come out tonight, and especially those who care deeply about farming. I encourage you to stay engaged, be discerning, but let's not close the door so tightly that we lock ourselves out of the future we should. Thanks.
Is your last name spelled S-T-O-T-Z?
It is.
Thank you. Mark King?
Hey, everyone, my name is Mark, K-R-C. Last name is King, like in Burger.
I'm not a farmer, but I'm at the other end of the supply chain on this one. We like the idea of having an agricultural reserve that can provide us what we need in the way of fresh vegetables at our various farmers markets around the county. So converting type 1 and type 2 farmland in Montgomery County's agricultural reserve to solar panel installations risks undermining the region's food security and agricultural heritage. These prime soils, among the most fertile in the state, are critical for producing high yield crops that support local farmers and provide fresh food to communities. Once covered with solar arrays, this land is effectively removed from production for decades, as leases often span 20 to 30 years. And soil degradation or compaction from installation can impair future farming. The reserve was established in 1980 to preserve farmland from development pressures, not to serve as cheap site for industrial energy projects. Sacrificing such valuable agricultural land for solar panels when the alternatives like rooftops, parking lots, or deep degraded lands exists, prioritizes short-term energy goals over long-term sustainability of local food systems, which are increasingly vital in the face of climate-driven supply chain disruptions. The people of Montgomery County in Maryland are being misled by this shift because it's sold as a climate necessity while ignoring the broader consequences and viable alternatives. Solar development on prime farmland often benefits large corporations or developers who secure lucrative leases, yet it raises land costs and rents, pricing out small farmers who lease over 60% of Maryland's agricultural land. Promises of agrovoltaics or dual-use systems, where farming supposedly continues alongside panels, are often overstated, as many crops require full sun and cannot thrive in shaded conditions. Meanwhile, the county's 2017 climate goals can be met without touching the reserve. As studies show, ample non-agricultural land, like 25,000 acres of impervious surfaces, could host solar arrays. By paving over type 1 and 2 soils, policymakers are trading a finite resource for a solution that could be implemented elsewhere, leaving residents with local food, higher farming costs, and weakened agricultural economy under the guise of environmental progress. Thank you.
Bosky?
My name is Linda Bergowski, LINDA Bergofsky. I live in Poolsville, and I'm here representing the League of Women Voters in Montgomery County. The League of Women Voters in Montgomery County is a nonpartisan organization that works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League thanks the Public Service Commission for this opportunity to comment on the Chaberton Solar Ramiere LLC application to build a 3-megawatt solar generating system in the Ag Reserve. The League strongly urges the Commission to deny the certificate of public convenience and necessity for this project. At 3 megawatts, the Chaberton Ramiere's proposed facility would not only be installed on prime soils in the Ag Reserve, but it would also violate the size limit set by Montgomery County for community solar projects in the reserve. Guidelines for solar installations in the Ag Reserve were set after a lengthy study and negotiations by more than 60 organizations, and then codified in ZTA 20001. That means it's been in existence for 5 years. Granting a CPCN for the Chaberton Ramiere project would not only overturn the county's local zoning codes, it would also subvert this functional master plan for the preservation of agriculture and rural open space that was created in 1980 when the Ag Reserve came into existence. Additionally, because solar companies are offering farmers in the reserve significantly higher rental returns on their land than they would get from being rented by a farmer, local farmers can afford to go with with Chaberton. Land values are being inflated, and these commercial interests and diverse crop farmers are losing out on the opportunity to farm the land. Solar companies must be prevented from using prime farmland for installations and instead site solar on subprime soils, as is provided for in the zoning ordinance. The League has a long history of supporting measures to make our community greener and preserve natural resources, including the use of solar energy. And we understand that it will take creative solutions to meet the state's clean energy goals. However, if the Maryland Public Service Commission approves this request, this project will sacrifice irreplaceable agricultural land, set a precedent that undermines local government authority, and opens the door for further development that will jeopardize the future of farmland preservation in the reserve. Once again, we appreciate the Commission's listening to organizations and individuals such as are here tonight when it comes to matters that directly affect our communities. It takes the cooperation of residents and responsible leaders to preserve Maryland's most vulnerable resources for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Butcher, Boucher.
Hello, my name is Doug Boucher, spelled Boucher. I am a resident of Dickerson. My wife and I live on White Acres Farm, which has been in the family for 150 years. We've lived there for 28 years and have been actively managing it, renting it, and also reforesting it. Two reforestation projects, an initial one of 4 acres, and have recently begun one of 10 acres. I'm also the president of Poolsville Green, and I'd like to speak in favor of the project. My wife and I have been working with Chaberton on a different proposed project on our land. It would be 20 acres. It would be a community solar project that would provide for electricity at reduced rates for about 575 families. And so through the work we've done in connection with the applications for that project, I've learned a fair amount about solar, about community solar in particular, as well as about the agricultural situation in Montgomery County. I know that there is a lot of sincere worry among people that if any solar projects are allowed, that there will be hundreds and hundreds or thousands of projects and that they will take over the farmland of the county. But I think when you look at the numbers, that is not a realistic expectation. For example, the Ramiere project is 11 acres. The project proposed on our land, the Sugarloaf project, is 20 acres. Montgomery County's agricultural reserve is 93,000 acres. Of that, 69,000 acres is farmland, is in farming. And the type 2 soils, which are excluded by Montgomery County zoning, make up 45% of the county. So the numbers really are very, very different in terms of what is proposed for solar and how much land is available. Furthermore, the state legislature quite recently, about a week and a half ago, passed legislation, the Renewable Energy Certainty Act, which would allow counties to stop any further solar development once the area within the county that is in solar reaches 5%. This was a compromise reached by the state legislature, both the House and the state Senate. The solar developers wanted it to be higher, 20% or so. The Republican minority in the legislature wanted it to be lower, 2%. And the final decision of the legislature was 5%. That means that in Montgomery County, we will have up to 4,500 acres. And again, to remind you of the numbers, the agricultural reserve is 93,000 acres. The farmland in the reserve is 69,000 acres. Mike Stotts mentioned the problems that we have seen with ZTA 2001, and I think those are definitely important to take into consideration. This is supposed to be the county's process by which community solar can be developed in the county. And it was passed a little over 4 years ago. If you look at the target for that zoning, it was 1,800 acres of solar in the agricultural reserve. At the rate that we're going to 2 projects in 4 years, it will take 296 years to reach that target. I don't see how we can say that that's in any way sufficient. Finally, I'd like to just talk a little bit about climate, since I am a all of us that not only climate change is happening, climate change is damaging both people and our ecosystems. And furthermore, the climate change is not going to leave any area untouched. We've seen climate change's damage here in Montgomery County quite recently in the last 2 years. We've had 2 quite serious episodes of drought in the county. We've had a tornado come through the county. We've had major flooding, which killed a person in Rockville, where I grew up. The areas can supply community solar, say we don't want to do it where we are, we'll just import it from someplace else. Basically, there is no someplace else anymore. Every place has to be. Thank you very much.
Michael McAllen. McAleer.
Prepared speech like everybody else, and I agree with almost everybody.
Hold on a second, sir.
Yes.
If you don't say it into this mic, it doesn't count.
Oh, okay.
And can you spell your last name, please?
Sure. It's Michael McAleer, MC, capital A, L-E-E-R.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I heard a few of you say, and I strongly feel like solar's awesome, but it should be in every single public parking lot, every public building. On top of structures there for connecting. And then I even thought, why not put it above every highway, every road? You wouldn't have to snow plow anymore. Think about the summer when your car's 100 degrees sitting in a parking lot in the sun, 20 feet high. They're doing it down on 28 at a building somewhere. I saw the solar panels. I've seen it out in California. It really just, to me, seems like a no-brainer. Our cars would be in the shade, you'd be getting the sun. Hey, in the winter when it snows, you wouldn't have to scrape your car. Getting solar. It's just a thought, right? Because I grow trees, I'm a landscaper. I love it out here. Grew up in Montgomery County for 62 years now. But I moved out to the Ag Reserve 31 years ago, got a historic home. I love it up here, beautiful community. And heck, I've been working on Waste Ferry Road lately. It's just gorgeous. So
We should get up on the website.
Good evening. For the record, Caroline Taylor, TaylorCaroline. And I'm here as a resident of the Agricultural Reserve. Our attorney for the four groups has spoken, but I had wanted to hear some of the testimony to see if there's anything that needed to have some additional information. One of the things that folks heard here tonight is that when the county enacted ZTA 2001, they shut the door to solar in the Agricultural Reserve. What they did was the county opened the door under certain conditions that are required by our by 66B of the state code, which requires that any of our actions be substantially consistent with our master plan. That's why cable communications and cell towers go through a process, the conditional use process, and they have certain conditions. Tonight you heard that we shut the door, as I said. We opened the door, giving up some of our most prime soils by giving up class 3 and above, some of which those soils grow a lot of the food that are produced in the Agricultural Reserve. Orchards not far from here, class 3 soils. So an understanding that the process was an attempt to be balanced in how we deploy solar is important. Another statement was that no projects have gone forward, and as a result of the zoning text amendment, and that is the sole reason why nothing has gone forward. I would like the hearing examiner and the people here to understand that even the Montgomery County Planning Department, in their assessment at 2 years, determined that the holdup was the PJM grid and the backlog of thousands of projects awaiting for connection to the grid. We had a list, Office of Agriculture had a list of projects that were waiting to be approved, only to be held up by the grid, largely in the Potomac Edison area, which is most of what is the Agricultural Reserve is served by. PEPCO, smaller portion of the Agricultural Reserve. Moreover, there's been some discussion of agrivoltaics, and the contractor for the applicant, Chaberton, has mentioned on a number of occasions Jack's Solar Garden as an example of agrivoltaics that could work here. I want to be clear, as successful as Jack's Solar Garden is, it's in Colorado under extremely different growing circumstances. We are very interested in seeing how Maryland, in our growing circumstances, can host agrivoltaics, but we have not had that demonstrated yet. There has been not a successful pilot project, and instead what we see are photographs with sheep grazing around panels, but that is not the light switch that can be thrown here on the type of agriculture that we do here. The type of agriculture that we do here is a small amount of fiber, mostly commodity and orchards and table crops. And to that last point, I will say the challenges to those types of farming are increasing, separate from, in addition to, competition for affordable acreage, changing climatic patterns, already the rising cost of acreage and input costs. All of these things are challenging our farmers. To put one more additional challenge
by not having appropriate conditions on how we balance solar will upend agriculture here. And I thank you for your time and so.
Kimberly Kempa.
Yes, please. I'm Kimberly Kempa, Kimberly, Kempa. When I was 30 years old, I bought land up here. I was so excited that I could ride my horse and that it felt like I was living in Mayberry RFD. And I loved the controls that were on in the ag zone. The ag zone had a lot of things good for it. They put in the TDRs to compensate the people so they would not go ahead and develop their land. They restricted it to agriculture. You could have a horse farm. We have a funeral parlor in my town, but you could have a business or some type of garden center or something. They made me sign documents that I had agriculture going on my farm. I had horses. I also had it hay. Most everybody here I know had some kind of agriculture because you have the advantage of that tax. And that's what we all enjoyed. I moved up here on purpose. Yes, I was a half an hour from a grocery store, but I love the life here and I still do love the life here. And I'm absolutely sick about the thought of having these solar panels. They're going to put them right down on Barnesville Road. I'd like to know how many solar farms you can allow up here in the ag zone. I saw them driving on 70 the other day in Howard County. It was just terrible. So when a couple years ago, I did say, okay, I'll lean into solar. I had them come out and give me a price. Do you know how much it costs to put solar in your house? $40,000 lien. Oh, but you will have an ROI in 20 years. So when you all talk about that you are going to give me money back, 10% or 25%, I have the special light bulbs. I have the Energy Star appliances. Last I looked, not your ROI. What's going to happen like when we have a storm like we did last year? So I know I lost $5,000 of damage to my car with a hailstorm. Hail as big as my fist. I know other people here had $70,000 damage to her house. 2 other people I know lost their cars. What are you going to do when those solar panels are pummeled and broken up? You're going to go buy more that are built in China using coal for power plants. You're going to ship them over here in trucks and in boats that are all by diesel, and then you're going to install them. And then you're going to put them in the landfill. So I'm sorry, I love the idea. I've even bought stock in some little nuclear companies, but I do not believe that solar is there here. We don't have enough sunlight. What if you live next to a solar farm? I know the guy down the road bought the property, rented out the house. He does not live on the property. Maybe the other gentleman that spoke, and he's happy to look at it. But if I live next to a solar farm, what do you think that's going to do to my property value? I moved up here to enjoy this. We have been encroached with the yurts and now all the wineries and golf courses have been torn down because there wasn't enough water. And everybody looks at the ag zone for dollars. It is not about saving the planet. It's about making you money and you money right there. None of us make money. None of us get a reduction. And you take away the farm. There are real farmers. It's like, some dairy farmers left in this county. And there's people who make money for hay. They need the land for their cattle. But yet when they lose their leases, they do not all own this land. They lease lots of land so they can make hay for the cattle. And when you put the solar farms in, you take that away from them. And they no longer have a livelihood. So I'm sorry I'm so emotional, but I see this happen. I invested. I love the life up here. And I'm not against saving the planet. That is not it. I just don't think that putting this on our area where you're overriding with that answer. You know, I know that people are thinking about putting a data center over there on the Dickerson power plant thing. That's what these people are thinking about, that they're going to put money into there. So I'm vehemently, excuse me, against this. I hope that you decide not to approve this. Thank you.
Well, Pam?
Pam, P-H-A-M is the last name. I used to work for Whole Foods Market as a green mission specialist, so I study a lot. I'm a green person. For my studies, climate change is normal. For my in-depth study, you know, climate change is normal. It's going to change. Climate is going to change. And the Mother Earth, it heals itself. Yes, we have a responsibility to do the right thing. About the solar tech, solar's okay. It's not the best. And when I was green mission specialist and the people that I come around and the things that we do that are really environmentally friendly, we would never build a solar farm and with old technology solar farm on prime soil where crops and plants can generate more oxygen and less CO2. And also the solar panels that are being that are planning 10 years ago or not, what they're putting on, what the company is planning to put on this prime soil where we could grow crops that can generate more energy day and night, 24 hours. That's the best way to be green. That's the best way to love Mother Earth, just to grow trees and grow plants, not solar panel. Solar panel, even if we want to do solar panel, and this is from my research, there are new kinds that does not block sunlight and vertical, like the other gentlemen say. So we should think about that if we're going down that road, but not on prime soil still. I mean, there are rooftops, like everybody said, and there are building tops and on top of highways. And also I heard about the companies that wants to do this. Bless your heart, wanting to be green. Yes, I want to be green. The potential, it's just the potential of replacing some of our energy. I know Maryland import energy right now, but that's right now. That has to do with a lot of things that's going on with, I mean, once we start drilling oil, that we might not have to buy energy anymore. So that changes all the time. And I just wanted to put in those technical details and yes, solar, but not on farm solar. Thank you.
Colin, burn off the heats.
Colin, C-O-L-I-N, last name is Montgomery, Colin, C-R-I-E-F-F is in Franklin, hyphen, I-E-A-T-E-S. Thank you. Yeah, so I just did a little bit of work on this. I've been, what, this way?
Yes.
This way? Oh, okay, so it's just, nope. All right, so, wow, there's so many issues here. Let me just share a little bit about my own history. I was raised on a sailboat in the Caribbean. So if anyone, I also windsurf, and I've also helped to get started Save the Bay campaign way back when. So I have a little bit of idea on a little bit of nature and how it works, particularly in the waterways. I can tell you that it was not that long ago, or for me anyway, that a tornado came through College Park and that whole area just ripped. It was like beautiful, a straight line, like a weed whacker. So it's not exactly, you know, new stuff. Tornadoes are not new, right? Storms are not new. Weather changes. I mean, yesterday it was cold, today it's warm. Weather is part of what keeps this universe, if you will, this universe we live in, the Earth. It has to change. Without changing, you're not going to have storms. Without storms, you don't have electrical lightning, which, by the way, without lightning, you're screwed. Okay, go look that one up. That's a real fun thing. So it ionizes, it doesn't ionize, so you kill all that. The other thing I would say is, if you're doing solar panels, you need sunlight. Why would they keep having chemtrails blocking out all the sun? I mean, all you have to do, I got a beautiful picture today coming in here. There was 2 airplanes with, what do you call it? Evaporate, heat traps, right? In other words, the moisture, right? The other one is a trail that gets bigger, 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 and you end up with a very thin layer of gray clouds over everything. Do a little study on the psychology of that while doing it. Also, I think we have now 11 states that have outlawed it. So I think that, for the people who don't believe in it. As I was saying, when I was out windsurfing at the middle of the night on a beautiful night, full moonlit, I was out in the middle of Chesapeake Bay, and all of a sudden the board slowed down. And I couldn't figure out why. I saw a light off in the distance, so I looked over there and went over there, and it was this huge ship, and it had a hole in it, bigger than this, huge, and it was just dumping oil and goo. When I came back, I still could not get the oil off my windsurfer. When we implemented that, guess what happened when I made this known to the Save the Day campaign that was just starting up? Guess what they did? They instituted legislation that required all people who own a boat to have porta potties that they could dump. It's only one problem. It would take almost 150 years for the boats to line up with the number of places to dump. It completely negated the purpose. It was the ships, with the for-profit ships, that had the big hole. So I just want to share these are, what's really going on in real life. I am for clean energy. Absolutely, I want our environment clean. I'm sick and tired of poor animals in the oceans and also in the bay. They don't have nearly the quality. So the chemicals and biological and stuff that they've been throwing in there, to me, is a far more important thing. I'll simplify it. I also want to say one other thing too. A lot of people don't know this. If the government did not create you, you're not a subject of the government. We, the people, created the government. And if you go to the founding document, it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, not over men. And I say that because a lot of people don't understand this. They think the government has to rule over them. No, it's we who created the government to secure these rights. Well, what rights? Well, we have freedom. Okay, we institute laws, right? What good is this law if you just override it? So here's a situation where we have a law that's in fault, but we're looking at how can we get around it. It seems counterproductive to me anyway. And as everyone said, I think there's millions of acres of available area that you can put, like I said, side buildings, top buildings, and so on, that you can put these to destroy farmland, and you do destroy it. And I did a little research on the amount of CO2, which seems to be the issue, which again, please look it up, because without some of the pollution right now where we have it, you wouldn't have rain clouds, going back to my first statement. So some of the pollution we actually need to create rain clouds. Check it out. And if you go look at the history of thousands of years, when CO2 goes down, guess what? You get colder temperatures. So that's why we're getting cold temperatures now. So ironically, we're doing the opposite thing, because they want to create a problem in order for them to create a solution that allows them to make money. So as everyone said, they're not against solar panels or clean energy. It's just, how is it being facilitated? How is it being worked? Is it taking over whole air, or is it blending in? Is it augmenting? And I have one other little thing I'd like to say too. To me, it makes no sense to have a big, huge solar panel farm, then you put it in cables, you now have to transport that electricity, which is waste. Then you go to then it's going to separate and go out to all these houses. That's why it's not going to work, because you're losing more energy bringing it to a central place and then going out here. If you have solar panels on each property where there's no cables, maybe 5 feet long, now you got something. So each house, there's enough on every house to supply that house with all the electricity they need with solar panels on the house itself. So I think this would stop this profiteering where you buy land and then you put solar panels on it to price everybody else out of the market. There's a lot more I could say, but I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to say one thing. If you want to think about it, which would you rather have? A full refrigerator with food or an empty refrigerator? To me, I'd rather have a full refrigerator. And by the way, just to share with you, I live the way I'm right now. I have 6 acres, and I'm living in a what do you call it? A trailer type of, what do you call them? Mobile home type, not trailer, tractor. Sorry, travel trailer. It's a word. And I literally use one battery every 3 days. That's it. So if I can live happy, comfortable,
I call the names of folks who checked yes, they want to speak. Are there other folks who decided they wanted to speak tonight? Okay. So since there's more than one hand, I'm gonna ask you to kind of line up on that wall and come down in order. If you don't mind. Okay, you're gonna have.
Last name Sullivan, Sullivan.
Thank you.
So-
Face the
Camera. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out and expressing your thoughts, your feelings. It's really important that we do that as a community. And so to the people in TV land, thank them too. A little background. Again, my name is Reardon Sullivan. I am actually a lead accredited professional. That means I specialize in doing green design. I'm also a professional engineer and do it for a living. I want to go on record as asking the PSC to deny this request. The ag reserve is 93,000 square acres of beauty. It was put in place by Montgomery County. I think they really did the right thing. It's one of the things I'm actually kind of disappointed that there's only a requirement for one hearing. There's way too many people here, way too many ideas to go for to actually transmit in one hearing. Also, I want to note that there are none of your county council members are here today. Nobody is up here to defend you. I think that for me, that's kind of telling. They don't care about you. They care about money. Maryland is indeed short of power. We all know that. Why is it short of power? Because of the decisions made by our county council, our county executive, and the people in Annapolis. They have mandated electric cars. They are taking away our gas heat. And actually, look it up. That is actually in an executive order. They're going to take away gas heat. What is that going to do? That's going to require more power from grid that we don't have. So the idea of putting electric or getting more power, I'd say, why don't we see what we can do to reduce power? Let's start there. People talk about their energy goals. I offer that these are artificial goals. If you look at the guidelines that have been passed by Montgomery County, you will see that they say if you have a certain type of house or a certain business, you can only use a certain amount of energy. Well, who made that up? Did anybody here vote for that? Was that on any ballot initiative? I don't think so. They have imposed, that's called BEPS, Building Energy Performance Standards. They're also telling us to get rid of things like gas blowers or electric blowers. Again, why would you continue to do things that require more electricity? It doesn't make sense. Another question, to follow that other gentleman, why don't they put panels down county? The grid is already much more further developed down than it is up here. Why don't they put it on top of how many government buildings do you see down county? I know a lot of them. I mean, some of these folks live in them. The next hearings, interestingly enough, are down county. When you drive down there to Reedy Avenue, take a look at how many government buildings you see. It's kind of scary. With that, again, I urge Public Service Commission to deny this request. I think that before we think about taking the county back in 1980, I think we need to put this on pause and make it so that we can enjoy the county, the ag reserve, as it was meant to be. Thank you.
Starting for the court reporter.
Hi, my name is Sam Cooper, SAMCOOPER. I am a psychotherapist, social worker, artist. Two things that really concern me about this plan. Number one is how sort of spiritually similar it is to a problem which we're seeing unfold across the earth right now, in which industrialized society performs a kind of insidious slow creep into undeveloped places to support its energy needs. For instance, just to jailbreak this outside of Montgomery County, Maryland, and even the United States, the city of Tokyo requires more energy than the entire biomass of Japan can generate. And I don't want this precious, beautiful land to fall victim to the same kind of lack of vision that the entire world seems to be under the spell of right now. Repeating those same patterns that don't work, that are driving our planet into catastrophe. It's concern number one. Concern number two is as a mental health professional. I think all of us who live here and those of us who travel here feel the blood pressure drop when we leave like Gaithersburg and Rockville and hit those fields. I'm not here to talk about numbers. I'm not here to talk about the economy or money. I'm here to talk about aesthetics, something that you can't measure, something that is irreplaceable once destroyed. There's a mental health impact. There's an emotional health impact to the uglification of the landscape. Greenscape replaced by hardscape. The research is there. I'm a social worker. There's evidence-based praxis. There's many, many studies to look up in terms of the effect of lack and or of destruction of green space on the human mind, human health metrics across the board. To me, that's what we're talking about here. It's about preserving a special healing place for generations to come. Once we go in this direction, there is no coming back. And for me and my friends, their children, our children who are going to grow up here, I can't stand by and let that happen. Thank you.
Please spell your name.
Yeah, my name is Ann Cinque, Cinque. I didn't sign up to speak because I had asked a question at the last meeting and they said they would get back to me. I called a few times, but no one did. The question I had was, would you please give me the research you have done on the impact of water on our land, on our streams, on the reservoir in Little Seneca, the Little Seneca Reservoir. I'm with Friends of 10 Mile Creek and Little Seneca Reservoir. And I don't understand why the applicant does not address that question, because it's a very, very important one. And we have done quite a bit of research on it, and it's potentially disastrous. Thank you.
Did you sign up? Did you sign up on the Sun?
No, because I thought they were going to address it.
Will you please, break down your contact information so I can ensure you get that answer?
Okay, thank you.
You'll actually, let me give you a different disclaimer.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Aaron Johnson, ArenJohnson.
Can you spell it one more time?
ArenJohnson.
Thank you.
I'll be quick. I don't speak in front of people as well, some of you do. So I'm a farmer in the area. I moved here in 2009. I've been farming in Pennsylvania before that. I guess I'm what you call a lifelong farmer. I probably have a different perspective on this than a lot of you think I would. I'm not opposed to solar, legitimately. I would say I'm not a fan of this particular project, because I'm a farmer and I am very much against wasting farmland. I think agrivoltaics is something that can work.
All right, anyone else want to speak tonight? Okay. All right. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your very busy schedules for coming down tonight. I also want to thank everyone for being courteous to everyone else. And I would ask that your courtesy to everyone else here continue in the parking lot as you leave. Again, please, if there's anything more that you have to say, please take advantage of making public comments on written comments on the Maryland Public Service Commission website. And also, please feel free to also attend the next public hearing in this case, which is virtually, so you'll have to do it on your computer, on May 19th. Notices will go out the same way you heard about this case, this public hearing. You'll hear about the next one and how to make arrangements to go on that call. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We can go off. Thank you.